Yo, ND, welcome to USC week. I am Jeff, joined by Frank, the bald dude, Mike with hair, and we are going to go over the USC game. But before we touch the USC game, let's talk about our picks, our locks of the week. And just to review, Mike on the year, scorching 11-3, 6-1 with the Irish. So who are you going with? Notre Dame is currently a 2.5 point favorite. We're shooting this on Thursday night, October the 12th at 7:41. Notre Dame's 2.5 point favorites. Who are you going with, Mike?
USC.
What's your score prediction?
38-28. Notre Dame's going to have to outscore them. They won't be able to.
We'll get into that. Frank, you are 3-2 on Notre Dame games, 8-2 overall. Who you got?
Notre Dame's going to find a way.
You got them winning the game.
Yes.
And what's the score?
It's going to be like 38-34, 35-30. It'll be in the 60s for an over-under.
So I'm 4-3 on Notre Dame games. I mean, until Notre Dame wins a game like this, I'm going to pick against them. So I'm going to go with USC to cover and to win. I think they're going to win like 38-20, 38-23. I'm going to say 38-20. There are obviously major issues on Notre Dame's offense. Question is, will USC's defense be able to take advantage of that? And again, we'll talk about that. So Frank got the Irish, true believer. I hope you are right. I hope Mike and I both lose. We're picking USC. Honestly, I wouldn't put money on it. Actually, I would. But it does feel a little bit like Clemson last year, where Notre Dame's back was against the wall. I thought Clemson was going to hammer them. And again, we'll touch on that. So let's go to our non-ND game. Mike, on non-ND locks against the spread, you are 5-2. Who do you have?
Tennessee -3.
Who are they playing?
A&M.
I like that pick. Is that a night game?
I don't know, but it's at Tennessee, and I think excluding 2020, Jimbo at A&M is 3-13 on the road.
That is a nice pick. I like that. I'm actually a little ticked off I didn't get on that. You're concise this week because I know before you had a few out there that you were seeing which one you want to pick. Frank, who do you have? And before you tell me, Frank, you are 5-0 on non-ND games. So, no pressure here, dude.
It's just luck. I actually had a few games I was deliberating.
Who are you thinking about?
I was really looking hard at Fresno and laying the points against Utah State. The other game I was looking at was taking UMass and the points against Penn State, primarily because of the weather forecast. But I'm going to try to play it safe, and I think the safe play is take Colorado, lay the points against Stanford tomorrow.
It's 11.5. I thought about that. That brings me to my pick. I am 5-2 on non-ND games against the spread. I'm going back to a moneymaker for me, and it's not Penn State. I am taking North Carolina getting 3.5 versus Miami, as in UNC's favored to win 3.5. It's 7:30. It's in Chapel Hill, and I just feel they have the better coach, the better quarterback. So that's a duo you normally can go with. So with that said, we will move on to Notre Dame. So, fellas, what are you thinking? I mean, we had a little more doom and gloom if you watched our last episode in the wee hours of Sunday morning following the debacle in Louisville. So, Frank, why don't you start? What are you feeling here for Notre Dame USC since you're taking them on the lock?
I'm still feeling doom and gloom. I just, as the week's gone on, and I actually went back and rewatched the USC game, and
versus Arizona,
and I was, and just full disclosure, watching some other podcasts and looking at numbers this week, USC's a good team, and they got talent. But if you look at the numbers and who their numbers have been put up against, this this sets up nicely for Notre Dame. The only question, which I don't know the answer to, and none of us will, is what's their mindset come game time.
Notre
And
Dame's or USC's?
Notre Dame's. If they come out ready to play and play with a sense of desperation and try to play this game in the phone booth, I think they can make some hay. And I think the weather is going to play in their favor.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, I think the high temperature at game time is 41 degrees. That's like what 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. It's going to feel like it's 31, and they're calling for rain. I don't think anything substantial, but it's there for like all night. Like it could, you know, be
I'm
misty. I guess.
I'm bringing my galoshes. It sounds like it's gonna be
Good. Hopefully Notre Dame's offensive line brings theirs too. Mike, what are you thinking?
Similar to what Frank said, they got USC as athletes all over the field. Caleb's just like he's
He's
not
going to get
there.
his.
He's going to get his.
Yeah.
He'll extend a lot of plays. That's asking our DBs a lot to hang with them all night long. It's going to come down to our offense versus their defense. I just feel like you're going to get the same 7, 8 men in the box, and they're going to play man-to-man outside and just dare Notre Dame to beat them throwing. And they have athletes. They may get gouged. They have all year. But all they need to do is make a couple plays on D, and they'll win.
Yeah, and you know, the X factor for me in picking Notre Dame, because this does feel a lot like Clemson last year.
Yep.
Notre Dame's backs up against the wall. You have this team. I didn't think in a million years Notre Dame was going to beat Clemson, let alone what was the final at 35-14. I think the X factor here is, can Notre Dame get out of its own way? Are they going to make the dumb mistakes? Is the coaching staff going to leave them out to dry again? So that's why I'm picking the Irish. Any thoughts on potentially opening it up this weekend?
I'd love to see play action on first down with 7 men in the box. It might work.
Any down with 7 men in the box at this point, but yeah, I hear
They
you.
should still run.
Agreed.
I feel like they see 7 men and automatically get out of a run, and they're not built to do that.
How is USC secondary going to match up with Notre Dame? I know they got guys, but are they playing? The defense is what, like 111th in the country. I read another article saying that this could be the battle between the two worst assistants, Notre Dame's OC and their DC. Yeah. So, without knowing a whole lot about USC, I don't know how their DBs actually are. I'm sure they're highly touted kids, but our receivers aren't doing anything.
I think this is the week you break tendencies. So
they need to play bully ball, Stanford style, and run stuff off of it.
Well, Utah owns USC, so they're not. You know what's coming with Utah.
Yeah.
And they still get it done. So to go back to your point, Mike, I agree. Lean on them. Plus, keep the ball out of Caleb's hands. But Frank, go ahead. I interrupted you a little bit there.
No, and those are all good points. There's a couple things that I keep coming back to. Is if you look at the raw numbers from last year's game, Notre Dame did a really respectable job against USC's pass offense. I think they threw for under 250 yards. What doomed Notre Dame last year was they got gashed on the run. You can't allow that to happen. You need to take something off the table. And you're not going to stop Caleb Williams. So as best as you can, you got to make them one-dimensional. You can't let them run the football. On offense, to your point, this is like the movable force and the resistible object. I mean, I think you do have to bully them, but I think you do everything in reverse. I think you run the football with 3-4 wide receivers on the field, and I think you throw with 3 or 4 tight ends on the field. And here's another interesting stat, and I'm a novice at this, but I'll tell you, I keep getting into Pro Football Focus and some of their numbers that they come up every week. And the one that really stood out to me is USC does not want to hit people. And they are a terrible tackling football team.
Didn't I read somewhere that PFF grade for Notre Dame's offensive line last week was actually really good?
Yeah, which is mystifying. But I think what they base that on is it's not so much that Notre Dame's linemen were individually getting defeated in their blocks. It's just they were getting overwhelmed with number.
Which is going to happen this week.
I mean, still, your point stands. To me, the PFF grades don't exactly line up with what I saw on TV. I think most reasonable people would say Notre Dame's offensive line underperformed. But for what Michael said, the interesting thing, PFF seems to say it wasn't the players, it was the play calling, and it was the packages that they were trying to run the plays out of. And there's some truth in that. So I think this is the week you break some tendencies. Because the one thing that's really interesting is USC's defensive line is pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
And they get upfield and they get after the quarterback. But their back seven, if you neutralize the defensive line, their back seven's vulnerable. And you can gouge them. So here's the thing. Get your people in space. Because you're going to be able to make plays.
I feel like Notre Dame, this being their... Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I say line up tight ends and let's see how sound they are with their gaps all night long and throw out of it. You can throw out of it.
Oh, your tight ends have been your most valuable asset through the air, so why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to go downfield on these bastards.
You got to go downfield. We've been saying that, though, since 2010. So I really don't anticipating it changing now. You know, one thing I kind of thought maybe it was a little overblown last week, and Mike, you brought it up, and of course, any article you read this is Notre Dame's 7th game in a row. Now it's their 8th game. Notre Dame was gassed last Saturday.
Yeah.
That really frightens me heading into this week because this is going to be kind of a track meet at times for the defense. And again, if the offense isn't producing, the D's hanging out there, you're not holding USC's offense. Caleb is going to make it happen. That really frightens me. Is there anything else that you guys are worried about? You know, besides the obvious, our play calling and all that. I mean, is there anything this game that USC brings to the table that you're like, man, Notre Dame better be ready for that?
Their kick and punt returns.
Yeah,
that
put
Zach
two back.
Branch.
Is he playing this week, though?
I don't know, but that kid's electric.
He is, but I know he's been hurt. He flashed early in the season against lesser competition, and I don't know his current status, but he hasn't come up in the stats the last couple of weeks, so I don't know what his participation is going to be. But yes, you're absolutely right. That kid's he gets loose, he's a problem.
Yeah, special teams are definitely costing yardage, especially on the punts, because we don't field anything. Frank, is there anything that is particularly scaring you about this USC matchup?
Yeah, no, Notre Dame can't afford penalties. So if you watched the Arizona game last week, their penalties were atrocious.
Arizona's?
Yeah, their penalties were atrocious. And I'm not talking the pass interference penalty. Because you know what, in a game like this, with the way they stretch you, Notre Dame's going to get a few PIs. But needless penalties like pre-snap penalties, roughing the passer, just the stuff that we've seen the last couple of weeks, hands to the face. This is a game where you need to be disciplined and play a clean game. Because if you get USC off schedule, that's your opportunity. If you give them short fields and you let them off the hook with big penalties, they're going to exploit it. But you can frustrate them by just staying on schedule, staying in your game.
Do you feel, and Mike, I'll have you answer this quick. Do you feel this weather's a pro or a con for Notre Dame?
I mean, they're on turf. The cold, it can only benefit Notre Dame. They don't play in cold.
Right.
USC doesn't know what this is. Like, that's just not their norm.
What do you think, Frank?
I think it's an advantage. I don't think it's a huge one, but I think if you have some inclement weather and it's cold and raw,
And raining?
and a little bit of moisture and it's cold and raw, that's not an environment that USC's playing in versus a Midwestern team where, this time of the year, that's not uncommon. You expect to see that. So
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal, though.
it's
I
not a
think,
huge deal, but it helps.
I think
Yeah.
it's definitely advantage for Notre Dame. I realize like the field conditions are what they are. It's going to be perfect on the field. So yeah, there's not going to be that advantage there where guys are slipping and everything. But if Notre Dame's able to run the ball and that offense is over for 8 minutes, 9 minutes on the sideline, they're going to be freezing their ass off. I remember, was it in 15 or 17 where it was a little nippy for SC, and those dudes were coats wrapped around each other like
17 was a great night. 15, it was cold.
yeah. So I definitely think it's an advantage. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The last time SC won in South Bend is 11, right?
Yes. Yep.
So Frank, when are you leaving?
Tomorrow afternoon.
At what time?
I don't know. I'm going to try to get out there before it.
Are you worried about Dad sitting out there in this?
No, he's going to be all right. We're going to be good.
Are you worried? Are you worried you're going to be driving home and it's 52-10 USC?
No, I'm
They're
not.
not holding us to 10.
I'm just saying, based on the O the last few, it's definitely going to be 50 to under 20 or 20. So
So
no,
that thought occurred to me, and then I remembered that Drew Pine went for over 300 on these guys last year, and 2 turnovers, and our game plan was terrible in that game, and we were still in it. And had we not had 2 unforced turnovers, we make that game tight. It's the blueprint to beat USC. It was given by Utah, and a lot of schools with a lot less talent than us, like Arizona and Arizona State, have been able to put a scare into them, and they don't have the personnel we do. So
Colorado also.
yeah, Colorado also, and the Colorado game's a strange game because at one point
It was a
I
blowout.
up by 20,
Yeah.
and Colorado just said, we're just going to make this backyard football and throw every down. They crept back into the game, but the Arizona game last week, Arizona leaned on them up front.
Arizona's an improved team. I realize their win-loss record isn't showing it, but they're playing everyone. They played Washington to a one-score game. So they are definitely getting it together out there. Did you see that Elijah Rushing decommitted from there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's going to Oregon, I think.
which I don't know. I thought that was curious to me because when he committed in June, it was all about home. So
I mean,
it's why I don't get excited about commitments.
Yeah, you
that
can.
low. There's so much that changes, especially in the environment.
Yeah, I agree. I hear like Deuce Knight. I want to be excited, but I'm like, Jesus, dude, you got 2 more years. What are the chances you're actually lining up and putting a gold helmet on?
2 more years, he's already changed high schools.
Yeah, right.
And that's his prerogative, but I don't understand the preoccupation with these kids committing so early when there's so many other variables and there's so much that happens. Just take your time and let it play out. When you're that good, the schools you want to go to are going to have a place for you. I don't, and that's why as a fan of recruiting, I don't get excited about it. I mean, I exhale a little bit on signing day, but then you sit there and you wonder, okay, who's going to get there, and 3 months later they're going to be getting out of their letter of intent. it is so transient anymore that the team you have right now this year is going to be completely different next year.
Yeah.
So
Look at
you're living
Colorado.
the moment. Exactly.
Is this the last 5 games we're going to see Audric Estime in a Notre Dame uniform?
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah,
I,
he's got to go get paid because the shelf life of a running back's
you
nil.
you
No
only
hate involved. I get it.
you only get so many reps in a running back's body, and the object is you want to get paid for as many of those reps as you. And you know what? If he does go pro, you want him to go pro because that means he had a good season, and by proxy, that means Notre Dame's going to finish the season strong. So,
Well, I was just going to say with that, the fact that we're discussing that this can't be a foreign topic to the coaching staff. Just run the shit out of him.
yeah,
He's
and you know what?
gone in 5 games. Run him.
This is a selling point though for recruiting because if you get running backs that you put into the league and give them a legitimate shot at the NFL after 3 years, it helps.
You see Kyron in the league.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's getting a shot to be running back one, but
Dude, all he does is score touchdowns.
yeah,
And I see Tony Jones is still getting carries down in New Orleans, too. It's unbelievable.
he
That
got
guy's.
he got waived last week.
Oh, he did?
He got
Wow.
waived last Saturday by the Saints because they signed another running back, and I think they're going to bring him back. It was kind of a roster number thing, but Kamara's back because he was suspended, I think, and then they got another running back. So actually, on the waiver wire, they cut Tony Jones last Saturday, and they brought Tommy Kramer off the practice squad. It's a little bit of an ironic move because they were down an offensive lineman for last Sunday, so they had to make Kramer active.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I saw Equimenius is getting some catches in Chicago. Not many, but he's at least getting reps. And our boy Claypool's down in Miami. Anything else you guys want to add before we sign off?
This it's not overstating it to say this is a big game for Notre Dame. Like, you win this game, it's like, okay, you're on track. You can still salvage a lot this season. You lose this game, and the doubt just further creeps in as to what direction they're going back half of the year. I mean, beyond the records, but you're looking at 8-4. It's it's you've really come in under what your expectations were. You're going to, a minor bowl game. What's your motivation level for that? And again, you come back to, how many of these kids stay engaged in the program, and that's something you got to be concerned with now because all the movement that goes on. There's a lot at stake with this game. Like, Notre Dame needs to get right, and USC is not the monolith that you would expect them to be for all their offensive numbers. And Caleb Williams he's silly, but beyond that, they're a beatable football team.
Yeah, they
I
are.
mean,
So is Louisville, though.
I mean, think about what USC's record would be the last couple of years if they didn't have Caleb Williams.
Or if they played people.
Or think about Notre Dame's record with Caleb Williams. I mean, he is singularly the difference. That kid he's insane. He really is good. Every time I watch him play, I come away more and more impressed. I'm really curious as to how his skill set translates in the NFL.
Yeah, we'll see. Mike, what do you think?
I agree with Frank that the season hinges on Saturday.
Yeah.
This could go south quick on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I did put a bet on the USC money line. It was too much to pass up for me. I pray to God I lose. I got him at, I think, plus 110. I saw it up at plus 125. Now it's plus 116, which is nuts to me. again, we talked about this, Mike, last week. I think it was about the Colorado game
Yeah.
when we're like, what am I missing? This is one of those ones. It's too obvious. There's something going on, and Vegas knows, and we don't. And that's how I look at this game.
With the spread? Yeah.
Yeah, how is Notre Dame favored is what I'm saying. It seems like a layup, which tells you it's a trap, and then you better watch what you're doing. If you're willing to bet it, it's not going to be a layup because Vegas doesn't miss. How are they favored by 2.5 too? Yeah,
I think there's people in Vegas look at things, and I think they look at USC's defense, and I think they look at strength of schedule, and they're saying, okay, Notre Dame's played bad the last couple weeks, but they've played a pretty demanding schedule. You've been on the road, and you played Ohio State, and I think they're saying, you know what? We all know USC's got talent, but they haven't been tested. Yeah, it's interesting.
I do think there is something to Notre Dame being in their 8th game, though. I mean, after last week, they were gassed, dude. And, you're going to have that high initially when you come out there because you're all jacked up. But where are you at midway, the tail end of the first half or the latter stage of the third quarter? Do you have enough gas to keep chasing Caleb Williams around? Because that's all it's going to be is a track meet chasing him around.
Chase him around. I think that's your problem. You don't chase him around.
I agree, but it's inevitable at some point.
Arizona, if you stop their run, and that's a tall order because of the way they scheme it, but if you take away their run and you play with 7 defensive backs, or in Notre Dame's case, you get the Aztec package and you get one of their athletic linebackers on the field. And
who's that?
Well, again, that's another good question. But I mean, what role is Merrick Leafow going to have this week?
He's going to play a huge role. The question is, are they going to stick with him when he's pulling face mask 20 yards behind the scrimmage?
This seems like a game that's tailor-made for somebody like Jalen Sneed. I mean, with his level of athleticism, I don't see how he doesn't play a role in this game defensively because you need athletes on the field.
Yeah.
And this is a game tailor-made for him. But I don't think you try. I'm going to be very disappointed if I see these cross blitzes in the A gap and bringing safeties from depth on a blitz. Caleb Williams is going to see that coming. I think your best bet with him is keep him in the pocket. Don't let him ad-lib. Make him stick to the script. And yeah, they're going to make plays downfield on you. But where things break down is when you let him extend plays and ad-lib. And that's where he hurts you.
Do we go back to the old 2012 Oklahoma defense where, hey, between the 20s, you guys got it. You're getting nothing deep. You're getting no big plays. And once you're inside that 20, we're going to clamp down on you.
That could win them the game.
Yeah, it worked. It's the same type of scenario. 12 had a good defense. This is a good defense now. We were playing an offense we felt was going to move the ball, so they just let them have those yards. And it's like, listen, nothing over the top, nothing easy.
Here's the difference with Oklahoma. Landry Jones was spread outside the pocket and not a threat to extend and break contain.
Absolutely.
That's
no question. Yeah, no, I agree. It is going to be interesting. Do you guys have anything else you want to add about the game?
No, let's just go get a W. This is a critical game. Not because
you guys look really excited, really amped for this game. I do hope I lose this bet, and I don't know. I got a feeling that it's going to play out like Clemson last year. I'm not saying the final score, it's just it's weird how it's paralleling each other. Notre Dame's got to have this W, and you have this high-ranked opponent coming in. So I hope that, we duplicate the success from that game.
It's a rivalry. I mean,
yeah, and lots of kids, we're recruiting the same type of kid too. So I think there's implications there. Real quick before we leave, Did you guys check out that USC card collection video?
No, what do you?
You got to check it out. First off, I could have spent days pulling out USC dudes. I didn't even touch like Bruce Matthews and like there was some studs, but I pulled out like the Ronnie Lott rookie, the Marcus Allen, a bunch of 55 tops All-Americans, Willie Wood rookie from 63 tops. Yeah.
I didn't see Reggie Bush.
I figured it was too obvious, like Bush, Leinart.
I mean, those are the dudes.
I hear you, but there's no real like rare cards of them that I have, at least. Thank God, because I would have paid a ton for them and they're worthless now. But Dwayne Jarrett, should I throw in him? Brian Cushing.
There's a lot.
Or the Harrisburg connection. That what was it? Jimmy Jones from Harrisburg High School, the quarterback.
Yeah.
I have a signed steroid needle from Brian Cushing I wanted to put on. No, but
Is it?
Yeah.
Did you put it next to the Clemens one?
There you go, Mike. Mike likes RC.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, Frank,
His stats do all the talking.
Yeah. Well,
He was a Hall of Famer before he ever took roids.
I do
my
agree with that.
favorite baseball player was never accused of PEDs, and as I seem to recall, he had a fair amount of success against Roger Clemens.
We need to verify those numbers of Eddie Murray versus Roger Clemens. I do want verification of the career numbers.
Baseball Reference.
Have you looked it up, Frank?
I haven't looked it up.
He probably wrote it down.
I just know from my memory. And I know Clemens took a lot of beatings in RBI baseball.
So, Frank, have a safe ride. Enjoy the trip. Take care of dear old Dad at the USC game in this weather. And Mike,
Oh, it'll be Dad and Joe Boy.
I can't wait if Notre Dame's losing to hear from Mike. Yeah, that's what the show should be. It should be me filming my incoming text messages while Notre Dame's losing from
For
Mike.
Mike.
And I can tell you've been drinking a little bit.
We
That's
we
the other
know,
thing.
we know this.
Yeah.
Had Mike been on the Titanic, he'd have been the first one of the lifeboats.
With that said,
I'm just ahead of the game, man. That's all. You'll come around.
that's all it is. Mike is cutting edge.
I hope I'm wrong, but
You got to be optimistic about it
why?
because
we were.
there's potential here.
I'm not saying there's not, but every week it dwindles.
Yeah, this week's
Oh.
gonna be huge for that too.
So what
Yes.
it boils down to, not to go down this rabbit hole, but since you're bringing it up, what this boils down to is you either got faith that Marcus is going to figure this out, and we've talked about this before, and right now I still got faith in him. It's painful, it's frustrating, it pisses me off, but big picture, I got faith that this guy, he's got enough charisma. He just needs, like any player, he needs some repetition. He'll get this figured out.
Dude, if he wasn't missing such junior high stuff though.
You'll know it on the first 3rd and 1 who's in the backfield. You'll know right then if he learned his lesson or not.
And with that said,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap it up. Go Irish, 7:30 Saturday, October the 14th. It's Notre Dame. What do they rank? 21?
Yeah.
SC's number 10. They're what, 6-0? 5-0. One of them. They're undefeated. That's it for YoND. Like, subscribe, comment, and go Irish, beat Trojans.